As I'm looking at this screen right now, I see Wes Carter from Atlantic Packaging and New Earth Project, and of course, the ultimate waterman, Kai Waterman Lenny. I thought it'd be good if we all got together and caught up. You guys have both been on some crazy adventure travel. Kai, is that true? Were you towing from a horse in Bali?
Yeah, so we did a little adventure of just to another island over to Sumba where wild horses roam free on the beaches and there's empty surf. And Molly is a pretty accomplished horseback rider. That's my wife. And she basically was like, I'll tow you with a horse down the beach. And she basically hopped on the horse and we put a rope onto it and went towing, horse tow foiling. And that was the first time I felt some real horsepower.
So, okay,
That
that's
has
a
to be
joke.
the
Is
first
that
time.
1 horsepower?
That has to be the first time in the history of the world that that's been done. Like y'all are the
I
first. No
think
one's
the
ever been foiling
foil.
behind a horse before.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's foiled behind a horse, but I definitely think people have probably tried surfboards. I mean, the craziest thing is I think most people would be like, was it hard for the horse? And it was actually hard for me because if the horse went too fast, it was gonna rip my arms out of my body. Like they're so strong. I don't think it even, especially when I was on foil, I probably didn't even notice I was there. Those animals are incredible.
So 1 horsepower is enough.
I needed like a quarter of a horse.
Yeah, Wes, I think you're right. That's a never been done. Nobody's ever done that before.
No, in the history of the world, that was
Holy
that was a
cow.
first. Well, I really enjoyed keeping up with you guys when you were over there. I guess the most important question is, but how was the surf? Did y'all? It looks like y'all did catch some pretty good waves.
Yeah, I mean, a flat day in Indo is still pumping surf anywhere else in the world. So it was really fun. I mean, I think we found some corners to go surf, and of course, we had all the sports too, from surfing to stand-up paddling to the hydrofoil, and there was no excuses when it came day to day.
And so, PK, you had quite a crowd over there. It was Kai and Koa and Ben Bourgeois and who else was over there with you guys?
Yeah, our crew was amazing. Ben Bourgeois. It was so great to include Ben and kind of introduce him to Koa and Kai. We stayed at the Uluwatu Surf Villas, and yeah, we had access to surf every day. We were able to connect the guys with the brothers from Sungai Watch, and that was incredible. Kai, talk about that experience.
Oh, going and linking up with the Sungai Watch. I mean, we've done beach cleanups. We've done all sorts of trash picking, parks, sides of roads. But this has to take the cake for kind of the most gnarly trash cleanup I've ever been a part of. Like, on paper, of course, it sounds super cool, and it was. But when we showed up, we were by this, like, probably the dirtiest river I've ever seen. The smell was just unbelievable. I mean, there was mosquitoes everywhere, and you felt like you were going to get malaria at any second or dengue fever. But we put on these full kits, and these guys from Sungai Watch are so passionate about, keeping the beaches clean and then stopping the trash, where kind of the freeway that takes it to the ocean, which is all these rivers. And, I think the history behind that's super interesting because the local people there were so used to using banana leaves and kind of compressing banana plants to make plates that they were so used to throwing it in the river and it would just go to the ocean and turn into fish food or just disintegrate just in the natural cycle. And now with modern plastic and all these products that don't break down for thousands of years, they still throw it in the river, but it just trashes one of the most beautiful places on earth. So when we hopped into the river, I mean, you name it, dirty diapers, plastic, stored in plastic containers. There was just like, dead animals. There was a python that Koa picked up. There was someone's dead dog that they just threw in the river. And it was just like, you could see this kind of oily residue on top of the surface of the water. And it was, it made me want to throw up, and I don't normally like feel that way. But it was cool because they have these nets that catch all this trash, and we were able to like basically clean it up. And they do this every single day. The amount of work they're putting in is just, I tip my hats off to them. I think the next solution, of course, is what a New Earth project has been working on, which is replacing all these plastic products with sustainable products, the mushroom, the algae, or the, cardboard. So You
Yeah.
know, it was it was rough. What do you think, PK, from your perspective? Because you didn't have to get in the water.
Well, I didn't jump in the river. You guys did with your waders. Of course, about halfway through, Ben looks at these guys, Wes, and goes, "Hey, are you guys? Is water getting into your guys' outfit or just me?" And Kai and Co are like, "No, we're dry, dude." Ben was soaking. There was a hole in his waders, and yeah, he had to pour that thing out. It was disgusting. He got that water all over his legs.
Yeah, it's interesting, what you just mentioned, Kai, about the banana leaves. And, I've just got back from West Africa and I was in the jungle. And there's a really interesting parallel because when you're in the jungle with these indigenous folks, historically, the jungle eats everything. And that's sort of the common knowledge. Whatever they used for hundreds and thousands of years, they just throw it in the jungle and it was earth digestible. That's just, it was something that I had never really recognized. Like culturally, it is just commonplace to throw everything on the ground because historically everything was earth digestible. I'm in Africa, you guys are in Indonesia, and you're kind of witnessing the same thing. It's one of the perspectives that I've tried to articulate in Westworld that like you can't point the finger at these impoverished people in these third world countries, who are just trying to survive, like that is not, the problem is not these people, the problem is that we've created all of these products that are no longer earth digestible, that create pollution, and we're pumping them out at such a rate, what do you expect these communities to do? They don't have any waste infrastructure. And if you live on a river and you're trying to get trash away from your home and your children, it's very logical to put that trash in the river and at least it gets carried away. So to me,
Kind of out of sight, out of mind, right?
out of sight, out of mind. But can you blame the impoverished people in these countries who are just trying to survive? I don't, and I hear a lot of that. It's the fault of the waste infrastructure in third world countries. I really think that finger pointing is not very beneficial to the overall mission. And was there a commonality to the types of products that you guys were seeing that day and Sungai Watch? I'm assuming it's like overwhelmingly single-use plastic, like you said, single-use diapers, single-use bottles, single-use bags. Was that the dominant, type of pollution that you guys were seeing in the river?
I mean, it was everything you would just normally imagine. I feel like a lot of the products in third world countries, it's like the single-use kind of like yogurt containers or even like drink containers, just with like the peel plastic lid. So even water, and then there were water bottles. It was a lot of like diapers and, kind of like the more I know this because, I have my 2 little girls right now, but, the diapers we have are bamboo based, so they break down and they'll just disappear. But a lot of these other diapers that, people in third world countries can afford, it's just the gnarliest diapers that'll be around forever, and it just holds everything in, and they get soaked with water. And it was probably some of the hardest part to kind of get rid of all that. Just the worst type of plastic, the stuff that when it doesn't even really break down, it just kind of gets shredded off. Like I feel like the more denser plastics will turn into microplastics, which is arguably worse. But this stuff is like just the Lay's chip bag, essentially.
PK, it sounds a lot like the Sungai Watch people are kind of doing what the ocean cleanup is doing, but they're just doing it super low tech with humans instead of an interceptor boat.
Some of the barriers said the ocean cleanup. They had sent them to the brothers. They're kind of basically doing an interceptor by hand.
By hand, right. What do they do with all of the material they pull out of the river? Is it all being burned? Is it going to a landfill? I can't imagine it's going to be recycled.
All of that goes to their recycling facilities that Sungai Watch has, and they sort by hand into about 20 different options that they have, and they recycle what they can down there. Yeah, they get them to the recycling facilities, and they're actually building some wall panels. One of the brothers has a house, but he built a house out of all the building panels that they made. He has a little sustainable house. So they're trying to make like Lego pieces out of the trash.
I mean, I'm assuming there's still a fair amount of leakage. I mean, did y'all see plastic in the ocean even though this is going on?
So I'd be foiling out in front of Uluwatu, and
Which is one of the cleanest areas in Bali.
Exactly. So it's like one of the cleanest areas, and it just looks picturesque, you know. It looks like something you'd see in an advertisement somewhere. And I'd be just going along, and I would hit a plastic bag underwater that you couldn't even see because it was a couple feet below the surface, and I would just explode. And then I would have to peel this plastic off, and you're just kind of going, oh my gosh, this is just nuts. There's so much trash that you could pick up, you know. I guess people do this quite a bit where it's like, okay, pick up 5 pieces of trash challenge, and if everyone did it, you'd clean up a whole beach sort of thing. And I don't know, you'd have to do like 100-piece challenge, and you need a giant trash bag in general to get it all, because the kind of the farthest, most remote places, even when we went to Sumba, which is this, you know, forgotten island, there's still like trash floating around, and it's kind of everywhere.
You're in the belly of the beast. You're really seeing the impact in the most impacted parts of the world. Cleanup is absolutely necessary. I mean, it's an amazing that there's people out there that are willing to get in those rivers every day. I mean, I'm assuming it was pretty challenging for an afternoon. Imagine doing that every single day and doing it with a level of passion because you care about what you're doing, which I'm assuming all those folks have. But, you know, cleanup alone, from my perspective, is not the only answer. I mean, we got to turn off the tap. I mean, and again, expecting, you know, third world impoverished countries, you know, just to snap our fingers and they're going to have best in class waste infrastructure. I mean, that should be a goal for our world, but that's going to take decades, you know. But what I see as the real thing, you know, it's like Kai mentioned, you know, like, what if all the diapers were made out of bamboo and they broke down in a week? You know, like, all of a sudden the diaper problem isn't a problem anymore. You know, earth digestible products has to be a huge part of how we innovate packaging and these materials into the future, knowing that a lot of them will end up in the environment. And if they do, they need to break down. To me, that's, if there's one major answer, I think that has to be it.